then y'all hear that? Is your tummy unfed? He's smiling. Are you better now? Stinky. Hey y'all! Obviously by the title, you guys know that this is going to be the birth story of our second baby boy, Bowen. And I did post, my previous video was a hospital labor video. We didn't film the actual delivery, so I really wanted to sit down and talk to you guys about what that was like, everything that happened. It was so crazy and so different from my first that I'm really excited to share it with you guys. Really cannot believe that it happened, honestly. I'm still like, what? We did that. Okay, cool. So he is kind of fussy today. He's been such a good baby, but he wants to be held. So I'm going to hold him while we film this video. And if you haven't checked out the previous video that I was talking about, the hospital labor vlog, I will link it up here somewhere for you guys if you want to check that out. I basically kind of cover the hospital stay, checking in, all that. And that video started out as me filming a preparing for baby vlog. I was going to vlog my doctor's appointment and then all the way through kind of the weekend and some of the stuff with us just getting ready for Bowen. But it obviously turned into an emergency induction, so I'm going to talk to you guys about that, and then of course the actual delivery of this sweet baby. So if you're interested, please just keep watching. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, please. I really appreciate you guys. I really appreciate all the sweet comments on my last video and all the sweet comments and DMs that I got on Instagram throughout this whole process. So you guys are just literally the best, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, let's just get started. So let's start with Thursday. Thursday morning, I had my 37-week appointment and ultrasound, and it was going to be my last appointment because I had a scheduled induction for that following Monday, which would have been September 30th. I was supposed to check in that night, and like I said earlier, the video that I was planning on filming was like preparing for baby. This is our last appointment. I was going to get my nails done and get a pedicure and just really, like I said, prepare for his arrival. And we get to the appointment and my blood pressure was high, which I have never had a high blood pressure reading. I never had a high blood pressure reading with Kason, and I hadn't during this whole pregnancy. And I had been having a bunch of other complications. My fluid levels were going up and down. Like one week they'd be really low. Next week they'd be like borderline, then they'd be high, then they'd be low. So we were having to really monitor those, and I was having to go into the doctors twice a week. Then of course I had gestational diabetes, and I was having to take medication for my fasting numbers, which is why I was being induced in the first place. And then the Sunday that before, I went into the hospital with some contractions, and I was in a ton of discomfort. I could barely walk. Like I had mentioned in the previous vlogs, I was having like lightning crotch and bad what I would assume was Braxton Hicks, because it was just my stomach was tightening up really tight. I was just in pain. And so we got into the ultrasound. Everything looked good. Heartbeat was good. We kind of went through, fluids were good. We're like check. And thing you know, then the next thing is she checks for movement. And on the way to the hospital, Bowen's moving around perfectly fine, like normal. On the way to the doctor's office, Bowen is moving around perfectly normal. We get into the ultrasound, and she can't get him to move. She's like wiggling the little ultrasound thing on my belly. Like we move on one side, move to the other side, all sorts of things. We're like there for a while, and she's like trying her best to get him to move. And she's like, I'm sorry, you might have to do an NST again, which I've been doing non-stress tests since my fluids were low pretty frequently. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because he has a hard time staying on the monitors, his heart rate staying on the monitors. So we get into the doctor and we're talking to the doctor, and my doctor's like, you know what? Let's just have this baby. She's like, between everything else that's been going on and then this weird blood pressure reading, and then we can't get him to move on the ultrasound, let's just, which was not normal for him either. She's like, let's just go ahead and do this. And I was like, what? Not expecting that at all. I totally was thinking we're having him next week. Like, I had things to do at work. Like, I just wasn't expecting that at all. So I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, thankfully I already had my bag packed and most of the stuff ready. So we came home. She did let us come home, get our bags. We ate lunch. We took way too long getting to the hospital, honestly. But we couldn't help it. We weren't planning on it. So it was like, okay, crap. So then we finally got up to the hospital, got checked in, they got my IVs going, all that jazz, and then they started my first round of cytotech at 4 p.m. And we were just hanging out. My family started arriving from Dallas, and nothing really happened with that first round of cytotech. I think I got a little bit more effaced, but not much. So then, of course, I had to do a second round. The second round, I started feeling more contractions, but they were definitely just more like, kind of heavy-duty menstrual cramps. They weren't anything super uncomfortable, and they weren't very close together. And this point, it was kind of later in the night, and my poor night nurse, Bowen, would not stay on the heart rate monitor. We would get me in one position to get comfortable so I could get some sleep, and take forever to find him on the heart rate. We would find him, and then maybe 10 minutes later, he would drop off the heart rate monitor. And so she'd have to come back in and readjust. I'd have to readjust. We'd have to find a new position. Sometimes it'd be super uncomfortable, and I'm like, I cannot lay like this for 20, 30 minutes. That's not going to happen. So we'd have to switch over somewhere else, and then if we would get him on the monitors and I would get to sleep, one of the monitors would start going off and beeping. Either my IV monitor was going off because the battery was dead, or the heart rate monitor for some reason would start beeping really loudly, but there was I still don't know why. It was just like non-stop all night long, and I started getting so cranky. I'm actually really glad that my husband was asleep through most of the night, because I probably would have like picked a huge fight with him, not on purpose, but I just remember being so cranky, and I knew I was so cranky, but I was so tired. I'm like, dude, I cannot get any sleep. And I knew I needed to, because obviously pushing, that just like totally wears you out. And then I wanted to be rested for when he arrives. But it was just like one thing after another. So they started my second round of cytotech, I think at like 2 a.m. I'm pretty sure it was about 2 a.m. they started my second round, maybe a little bit earlier than that. And then the third round of cytotech really, really cranked things up. I was feeling a ton of pressure in my butt, a lot of contractions, and I could definitely tell, like, okay, like this, we are doing something here, like this is happening. I did have to do 3 rounds of cytotech with my first also, so I was really thinking, okay, this is probably going to be the last round, and, we're going to see probably start the Pitocin and blah, 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 blah. So about an hour later at 3:08, I'm laying there in bed on my side, and I hear and I thought it was him moving, because you could hear him on the monitors when he moved, but all of a sudden there was just this huge gush of warm liquid, just huge, and I knew I didn't pee on myself because it was so much. I was like, my water just broke. I know my water just broke. So I called the nurse in, and she's like, yep, your water just broke, which I was so excited about that. My doctor had to break my water with casein with our first. And so when that happened on its own, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I think when you you're induced, you feel like you're missing out on a lot of those like natural labor type things, like your water breaking randomly somewhere, or you like, oh, is this, am I having contractions? Like, I need to time them. We need to go into the hospital. Like, you miss out on all of that. And so when your body does something on its own, you know what I mean? Like, the doctors have to come break your water. It's just really exciting. And I was like, hallelujah. I was so excited. And my nurse was so excited for me too. It was the sweetest thing. She was great. She was just absolutely great. But she was like, that's such a good sign. Like, oh my gosh, so excited. Da, da, da. So I lay there for about 2 hours, and I was like, my contractions started getting really intense and really strong, which is obviously is common. So I decided to go ahead and get my epidural, and I did that because with our first, I waited way too long to get my epidural. It's kind of one of those things again I was talking about earlier. I wanted to experience a lot of the labor process. As natural as possible until I was like totally ready. I wasn't ever planning on going drug free with our first or our second, but I wanted to know what it was like. I felt like I was kind of getting robbed of going into labor on my own, and I was really upset about that. So I was just like, I really want to, push it, and I pushed it way too far. I was almost 6 centimeters dilated, which is as far as dilated as far as the pain level gets, apparently, which I didn't know that. And I couldn't relax through my contractions very well, and they had to stick me 3 times. And the second time, I almost ripped my husband's shirt off of him. It hurt so bad, and it was really scary, and I really didn't want to have to go through that again. So I skipped the Tylenol, all the other pain relief medicines that I had done the first time to kind of push through. I was just like, let me get my epidural. I was thinking, one, I can relax through the contractions right now. They're far enough apart where we can probably get it perfectly right in between. And I'm so tired, I need to sleep. And I knew getting my epidural, I would be really comfortable enough to just knock out. So we finally, so I told her, let's do the epidural, go ahead, let's do this thing. So I got my epidural, and that went great. The anesthesiologist was so awesome. He actually talked through the whole process, like, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what's going on. Like, my nurse was awesome with watching my contractions. My husband was, of course, standing in front of me, helping me relax my shoulders, and I was really just trying to focus on relaxing my whole body, and then also communicating when I was having a contraction. And it went great. And so I told them both that. I was like, thank you so much. That went so much better than the first time. I was terrified. And so I was just like, thank you. And as soon as I got it, I started shaking, and I started feeling really, really, really nauseous. So she gave me some of the nausea medicine, which I cannot think of the name of it. It starts with a Z, I think. It's really common. I can't think of it. But she gave me some nausea medicine, and about 5 minutes later, I was knocked out. Like, I slept so good, so hard. She said that she came in to check on me, and she was like, you didn't even move. Because our plan was to like lay on my back for a little bit, and then she was going to roll me over, lay me on my side, lay me on my other side, that sort of thing, like every 20 minutes. And she was like, I didn't want to wake you up. I knew you were tired. You needed some sleep. She was like, you just needed to rest. So I got some really, really good rest and woke up about 7 a.m. That morning, and was like updating my family, letting them know kind of what was going on. I think I was at a 6 at that point, so I wasn't as far along as I thought I was going to be. I remember last time with Kaysen, whenever they gave me the epidural and I slept, I woke up and I was like way more dilated than I was before. So I was really thinking I was going to be further along than I was, but wasn't, which was fine. So I just continued to nap and rest as much as I could, and family started kind of coming in and out, and then they came in to check me at 10:33, and I was 9 centimeters dilated. So she was like, okay, let's get ready, let's do this thing. And around that time, I don't really know if it was right before she checked me or right after, but it was, right there on that time, I started to really feel my feet and my toes, and I could move my legs like basically kind of back and forth, way more than I remember with my first. And I was feeling a ton of pressure. And so I asked the nurse, I was like, hey, this is what's going on. Is my epidural wearing off? And she was like, no, that's actually a really good sign. You kind of want to have some movement, and you do want to feel that pressure because it'll help you when you go to push. But she said, but if you start feeling like menstrual-like cramps, let us know. And so I was like, okay, cool. That sounds good. Like, I'm not yet. Everything you were saying that I'm feeling is normal. We're good. So then maybe 10 minutes later, I'm laying there and I'm like, okay, that was definitely like a menstrual-like cramp. And then another one. And then another one. And I'm like, oh, no. And I knew I had a very small window. I was 9 centimeters dilated. There's no telling how fast I could get to a 10. They were calling my doctor, letting her know. Like, I knew we were really close. So I called them back in and I'm like, listen, I'm feeling some cramping. What can we do? And so she was like, I can't give you, we're too close now. I can't give you any more, I guess, of the epidural medicine. I'm not really sure what that's called, but she's like, I can give you some Tylenol. Okay, so I was thinking, well, maybe between what epidural I still have left, because I felt the tingling in my legs, and then, well, the Tylenol maybe, okay, but she's like, well, I don't think she said Tylenol at first. I think she said, we'll just give you some more medicine, some different medicine. So I'm like, all right. So by the time my doctor got in there, we got things set up, we got my legs in the stirrups, I could feel way more. I couldn't really feel my thighs to my mid of my calf for some reason, but I could definitely feel the contractions. I could feel my feet completely. And I was like, I just was thinking, okay, I think we're about to do this with no pain medicine. But I was like, maybe it'll just continue to stay where it's at until we can get this baby out, because it wasn't totally gone, you know what I mean? But it was definitely not. I was like, and I was telling her, I was like, this isn't like it was with Kaysen. Like, I can feel when my contractions are coming on. I can feel my contractions. Pushing at 11:45-ish, and about 6 pushes in, it was full blown. I could feel everything. I was telling them when the contractions were coming on. I felt the ring of fire. I was like, I feel like fire. And at first my doctor was like, because they put some baby shampoo down there because they were trying to get him to slip out, because he was like really close, but he wasn't quite there. And they were like, okay, is it the shampoo? Well, let me wash you off. And they washed everything off, and I'm like, nope, that's internal, not external. And so she was like, okay, all right. And then I started getting so tired. Obviously, like, you have to crunch up, and you push for 3 counts of 10, and you're like pushing. It's not like the movies at all. For those of you who haven't been through labor, it is totally different than that. And so she was like, told my husband, okay, every time we go to every time she goes to crunch up, I need you to put your arms behind her and help her push up, help her crunch up. And so he did that. He was like pushing up, and I was just remember thinking like, okay, this is really nice, because he would do that and we would be kind of face to face, and that for some reason like really helped me mentally. Like, okay, like, I don't know, it just like calmed me down a little bit. I'm gonna start getting teary-eyed. Hormones. But it was just really nice to have him right there, and he was just like, you're doing great, honey, like, you're doing awesome, you're doing such a good job. And he was just so supportive. And definitely as we started getting closer and closer to Bowen like actually getting here, it was so crazy painful. I can't even explain it, honestly. Like, I was just like, oh my god, like, even just thinking about it, I'm like, oh. It was insane. The I honestly I can't explain it because it's literally nothing like I've ever experienced in my entire life. It like just all the pressure, but worse than just pressure. I remember when she was like, he's right there, he's right there. Just push as hard as you can. And so you're really focusing on pushing basically at your butt, which that sounds weird, but you just kind of have to focus all of your thoughts and all of your like efforts into like pushing at your butt. And so we were doing that, and my poor husband was like totally like he got a workout in for this labor. And then she goes, okay, that's his head's coming. His head came, and I was like, for like a split second, was like, oh, like a little bit of relief. And she was like, okay, you just gotta get his shoulders out. As soon as you get his shoulders out, you'll be done. It'll feel so much better. You know, it was like, you got this. So getting his shoulders out, I was just like, I remember like, you're trying to push and breathe, but I'm also trying to like scream. Basically not scream, but I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, get this baby out. Like, holy crap. And then, which again, I didn't feel a thing with Kason. So this was just totally a crazy experience. And then, we like get his shoulders out, and as soon as we get his shoulders out, I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, it was just like an immediate like relief basically. And they put him up on my stomach, and I just start crying. I didn't cry at all with Kason, so I was definitely interested to know if I was going to cry this time. And I think some of it was relief. Honestly, like now I know when moms who have unmedicated births, when they're like crying uncontrollably, I'm like, I feel it now. I understand, because part of it I honestly feel like is relief. You're just like, oh my gosh, like I'm done. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad this baby's here on so many other levels. And then, of course, your baby's here, and it is such an amazing experience. I think this time around, I know the love I have for my child and how much love I'm going to have for this baby. And I'm going to cry. Hold on. So as soon as he got here, I was just like in love. I just look at him and I'm like, oh my God. Sorry. Oh. It's just like the most amazing feeling in the whole world. And I'm so thankful he's here. But again, on so many other levels, not just because I'm glad he's here, but at the time I was like, dude, I'm really glad you're here, because that was really freaking hard. So he arrived at 12:34. So we pushed for not quite an hour, but pretty much an hour, which again, it was just so intense. So they put him up on my stomach, and they're drying him off and everything like that. And then my doctor goes to get my placenta, and they're pushing on my stomach, and apparently not all of my placenta came out at once. And so she's digging me. My husband is like, she was elbow deep, and he was like, holy crap. Oh, I know. Shit, I totally forgot to mention this. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. Let's back up for a second, because I definitely want to say this. So when I'm going to push, apparently Bowen she was saying sunny side up, so he's face up, which apparently makes it way harder to push to get the baby out. So we had tried to push for a while like that, and then she decided she was going to flip him for me. So she puts her hand in me. Okay, I'm sorry. If you're watching this, though, you should already be prepared to, be grossed out, basically. Puts her hand in me and flips him around. Okay, between her hands and his feet. And again, I could feel everything. Okay, I was like, so painful. So that was during me pushing in labor, and then she does it again to get the placenta out. And of course, by this time, I really don't have any kind of drugs in me at all. They're totally gone. And again, they're just pushing, and I'm just like, and he's laying on me, and so I'm trying not to like scream out loud or be really loud. I'm trying to stay calm, but it was really, really hard. I was just like, oh. And if you saw that little clip that Cody took, which I'm surprised he took a video clip. Honestly, I'm glad he did, but I'm surprised. But I was going like, ooh, ooh, like that during it's because she is like grabbing and they're pushing, and I'm just feeling everything, and it's so freaking painful. Oh my gosh. But honestly, now looking back, of course, that's what I was most scared of, was the after part of giving birth without an epidural. Now I'm like, they're both pretty painful, I'm not gonna lie. But after having him, I felt so proud of myself. I mean, I didn't do this on purpose, and I don't think any woman has a baby without a medicine to be prideful, but, or even like boastful or anything like that. But once you get through it, you're just like, holy cow, I just did that. I cannot believe I just freaking did that. And you just feel proud of yourself. I mean, I really don't know how to put it in other terms, and I hope I'm not like, I don't want to offend anybody. And of course, I was gonna have I wanted to have an epidural, had an epidural with my first, but you just are like, holy cow, that was badass, honestly. Like, you're just like, that was great. So I'm now that, he's here and everything, I'm so fortunate that I'm so thankful that I had that experience. I don't know if I would do it again, but I am really thankful that I had that experience, and I got to know what that was like. And it was just very intense, but like in a crazy good way at the same time. It's really hard to explain, and I think for me, because I wasn't going in expecting to have that experience, it was even more intense for me, if that makes sense. So, I didn't end up tearing at all. No tearing whatsoever. I had second-degree tearing with Kaysen, no tearing whatsoever with Bowen, and that has been awesome. I feel way better, and because of that, that's why we were able to go home so quickly. So for those of you who saw that vlog or followed me on Instagram, I kind of mentioned some people had DM'd me and were like, that was really fast, which I wasn't expecting that either, but I wasn't having any complications. I had no tearing, no, crazy bleeding or anything like that, and he was doing really good. So we decided to come home. So recovery-wise for this birth has been a million times different than it was for my first. Just everything about this experience with this baby has been totally different. And I do plan to do a postpartum video, so if you guys are interested in that, just kind of stay tuned. I'm going to wait a couple of weeks and do that video. But so far, so good. So yeah, I think that's it for our delivery video, our birth story video, or his birth, however you word that. It went incredible. I am so thankful to have another amazing experience with an induction. I was so terrified I was going to have a C-section this time. I was just thinking, there's no way. I have two really good induction experiences. Kaysen's minus the epidural situation was so great. And I just remember us leaving the hospital with Kaysen, and my husband and I could not stop saying, like, holy cow, I'm so thankful, that we just had that experience. Like, we just were like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful. And it was the same way with this baby, and I just can't believe it. So I'm really thankful. And again, like I said, I'm honestly thankful that I got to have the experience of having a drug-free birth at the end. I feel like I cheated because I slept through most of the contractions, which was good. I'm really thankful that I had the epidural because I got really good sleep and I got to rest. I was still super exhausted after having Bowen. I mean, holy cow, I was just laying there. All my family was like, you are so tired. Like, they could tell, like, it really took a toll on me. But it was just such a good experience overall, and very neat and very different and a little bit crazy. And I can't believe he's here. And, technically he's supposed to still be in my tummy, which is crazy. Like, I would be Still 38 weeks this week. I turn a new week on Monday, so on Monday I'd be 39 weeks. That's crazy. But he's here and he's doing great and I love him so much. And he's just, oh, he's been such an angel baby. And I'm really hoping our first, he's so sleepy. Our first had reflux issues, so I'm really hoping he doesn't. But he does. We'll get through it. And there he is. He's just the best. So yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that was informative. I feel like I probably left some stuff out, and I'm probably going to go back when I'm editing and be like, really? But hopefully that makes sense. I'll leave anything in the description box if I feel like I did leave something out. Yeah, and I think that's it. So please don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Oh, if you don't mind leaving some comments down below about what other videos you guys want to see, if it's newborn related, toddler related, mom related, whatever. Leave me some ideas down below. I do plan to continue to crank videos out as best I can during my maternity leave, especially before I get back to work, because I think once I get back to work, things are going to be a little crazy around here for a little while. So I want to take advantage of this time, and I also really just want to document this time as best I can since he is so little. He's just a little baby. I'm so handsome. But yeah, so that's it. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!